Hi and welcome back to AstroPix. Today's video is all about shooting Orion with nothing more than a standard tripod, a DSLR and a 100mm lens. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So here we have the setup. It's going to be a standard Manfrotto tripod. I've also got my Nikon D750 full frame and the f2.8 100mm Nikon lens. I've got this hot shoe adapted red dot finder that I held central the photo when I've done my planning session on Stellarium, and a couple of other extras that I'll be using. I've got this intervalometer that I'll be plugging in to do all the settings on bulb, and also I've got this USB, sorry about the jumping around, it's hard. We normally video with the camera, so I'm using my handheld iPad. Be using this USB dew band that I'll put on there shortly. That'll be powered with this power bank here. A little something you might find useful when you are using these lenses, and that is focusing is really difficult as such a short focal length. What I found has worked in the past is you turn the camera to infinity and then move it back about 1/4 of an inch, and I found that is almost near perfect focus. Using a baton off with such a short focal length is really difficult. So what I'll do is I'll take a couple of images and adjust that focus till the stars are as small as they can be in the window behind. Anyway, let's get into Stellarium and do some planning.
So I'm just planning my session for the Orion shoot. Now I'm using Stellarium, it's one of my favourite kind of planning programs. Just like to see how it's going to be framed. So I'm just going to open up this up here. I'm going to be using my Nikon D750 and my 100mm lens. So this gives you a really good indication of how it's actually going to look. Going to get quite a lot in the frame, which is great. And it will also allow me, because I'm not going to be using a tracking mount, just a basic tripod. When I come to crop it, it will allow Orion to kind of move through the frame a little bit before I have to adjust the tripod and recenter it again. Because I'm only going to probably be doing maybe 2 up to 5-second exposures. I'm going to work that out in a minute using the MFN rule. I'll show you a website that would help me understand what I can shoot without getting star trails. I don't anticipate getting any of the Barnard's loop or the witch head in. I just don't think the exposures will be long enough, and also the light pollution from where I am. It's Bortle 5, so I just don't know whether any detail will come out in that, but we'll see. So yeah, you can see it's going to fill the frame lovely. I'm going to use the red dot finder on top of the camera to try and, well, I think around here will be a great, just above the nebula and just below the center of the belt should be a good point for me to line up. And like I said, it will allow Orion to travel through the sensor. That's quite a long period of time, then I'll recenter it and go again. But I'm just going to jump into this website here, Photo Pills, which is great. It's got an online calculator using the 500 rule. Some people use the MFN rule, but I found this gives quite an accurate exposure time. So you just pick your camera from the drop down, and I'm using the D750, which appears in this list here. Focal length is going to be 100mm, and I think the declination is going to be around 35-40 degrees, so I'm just going to leave it there. That should be about right for what I'm going to be doing for tonight. So it's saying here that I'll be able to get about 5 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shoot at 5 seconds and zoom in and see if there's any star trails, and then just keep bringing it back until the star trails are really minimal or non-existent at all. And if I get 5 seconds, I'll be delighted, but I've got a feeling it's going to be around 2.5-3 seconds, but we will see.
So I'm just imaging the Wizard Nebula over there. And while I'm waiting for Orion to come round into the right place, I'm just doing a few test shots with the camera. Let's hope you can see this. So this is a 3-second exposure at 100mm. Just going to zoom in a bit. As you can see there's not many trails at all at 3 seconds. I'm going to try it on Orion, see what it looks like, but that's looking okay at the moment. Hopefully there's enough light. It's absolutely freezing out here tonight, but so far the shoot's been going good. The car's starting to look like a block of ice, and so is the camera. The dew band is doing its job, but I'm going to have a little check and just see how the images are coming out. So I'm just going to stop the run there. Let's have a look. I need to move it anyway. Orion's moved over slightly. So let's have a look at a few. I'm not sure how well they're coming out on there, but there it is. It's actually going pretty well. You can make out a bit of the sword there. The belt's coming out nice and clear. Stars are nice and tight, so the focusing's good. Hopefully have a nice image to share with you following this. So got about 200 photos in the bank at the moment. I'm going to keep on going as long as I can, and just going to reposition and we go again. So it's just coming up to about 11 PM. I've just changed over the cards. I've filled up 32 gig, so I must have about 600 images already in there. Yeah, the camera's absolutely frozen, but the dew shield, see if I can, there you go, it's keeping the lens nice and frost free, so that dew band and the shield's doing the job. As you can see for the rest of the camera, it's pretty cold. Anyway, I'm going to try and do about another hour and then call it a night and see what we've got. Oh, something I meant to mention earlier, I've been shooting at ISO 800. The actual, ignore the 6.3s because it's a very old lens. It's a manual focus lens, so the aperturing don't work properly, but it is at f2.8. Something I didn't mention, is the Nikon D750 is what's called ISO invariant. Doesn't matter what you shoot it at 200 ISO and you can adjust it afterwards, but I just shot at 800 just for the purpose of this tutorial, because I don't really want to be changing probably 700 or 800 photos in Lightroom to the right ISO. But it's just something to bear in mind. If you do have an invariant ISO camera, you can shoot it at its native ISO and adjust it later. Anyway, let's get back into this. Just finished shooting the calibration frames. It's 12:30, so I'm talking quietly, but the shutter count's looking at about 1400, so it could be an interesting stack ahead. Let's see what we got.
I'm just in Astro's worth of 2-second exposures. Out of that 211, I'll probably just stack 190 or 200. It'll just allow for any sort of trailing errors or some slightly off focus images, but it should be okay. And I've actually opened up one of the images here in Photoshop, so I've actually just stretched it a little bit just to kind of see what the data's like, and so far it's looking quite good. So if we zoom into the belt, the stars aren't too bad actually, considering that's quite a heavy crop. So yeah, they're quite good. And if we zoom in onto the actual nebula itself, there's some detail there, a little bit of colour as well. It's not overly blown. I think we might have quite a good outcome from this. Just going to wait now a couple of hours while my slow laptop churns this through. I dread to think what it would have been like if I put through the 2000 images, but these full frame raw files are huge. It took up 57 gig of data. And when I started stacking this, it actually came up when I tried with 1200 initially, and it come up saying it needed 400 gig of free space to actually process those 32 gig of images. So I've had to break it down into smaller chunks. I'm going to see what this 200's like, and if it comes out okay, I'll do the next 200 and next 200 and then stack all those. But for the purpose of the video, we'll see what this 200 comes out like, and I'll share that with you shortly. So here we have the stack and its TIFF file that's came out of AstroPixel Processor. There's obviously a lot of overlapping from where I moved the tripod during the session, but what I wanted to achieve has happened. You know, I've got Orion nicely centralized and it's come out with some good detail. There's a lot of stacking artifacts here that I'm going to have to get rid of, and I'm going to do that just by cropping this in slightly. Probably because I didn't shoot any flat files, but I just wanted to, I knew I was going to be cropping it heavily anyway. That's probably the size of file that I want to work with. There, crop that. Yep, that works out quite nice. I'll be able to do some of this dynamic background extraction in PixInsight and get rid of some of this. What I'm going to do is just run it through Topaz Denoise, see what it looks like as a file, and then, like I said, start working on this then in PixInsight. I'm going to remove the stars and try and work on just the nebulosity and see if I can boost the colours a little bit. It looks a little washed out there, so work on that with the highlights. Let's see how it comes out. So in the end, I ended up stacking 135 images. Main reason for this was just purely lack of computer power to stack any more than that. It crashed several times. I've got a very old laptop, so that's something to put on my wish list for later this year, but there's some other Astro goodies I want to buy first, so a laptop isn't priority. But when the darker nights are non-existent in the summer, I may look at trying to stack multiple, do like smaller amounts and stack multiple ones and see how it comes out, do like some HDR type stacking. I'm not going to talk too much around the image processing. There's a guy called Nico Carver who's got an absolute fantastic tutorial on Orion and how to stack and how to edit. So I'd suggest if go and check him out on nebulaphotos.com. Absolutely brilliant tutorial. I'll put a link in the description to that particular one if you do want to go and look how he did his editing. How I actually did mine in the end was I did a starless edit. As you can see here, I used StarNet to remove all the stars from the picture. You can just make out the horse head and the flame there, and obviously the running man and the Orion Nebula has come out really well. So I tended to process the colours and try to push it as far as I could on here, keeping the stars completely separate and then combining them both at a later date. But it's a really good technique and one I find quite useful. And then, yeah, from the 135 photos, it's produced some good detail, some good colour. Like I said, I'm going to try and do a little bit more in the future. Try and stack several stacks together, do stacks of 100 and combine them and see what it looks like. But I might save that just for something to do during the summer when I can't do any imaging. But here we go. Here's the final image. Here's my finished Orion. I'm quite pleased with it actually as a test. You know, it's a 100mm lens, 135 2-second photos. It's produced quite a detailed picture. I'm quite chuffed with it, to be honest. But it just shows you what you can do with a Nikon DSLR, or any DSLR in that fact, a lens and a tripod and just a little bit of patience. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy the content on the channel. Plenty more things to come in the future. And I just want to wish you all clear skies and all the best for the new year in 2020.